Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Samah Safi Bayazid. I'm a filmmaker. I'm sending my warmest regards from here, Washington, to all of you, and especially to the First Lady, Mrs. Amina Erdogan. I was really looking forward to meeting you all, but unfortunately, with what's been happening in the United States and the Muslim ban, this prevented me from joining you physically today. If I travel now, I might not be allowed to get back to my home, dear husband, friends, and work. I even consulted 3 lawyers and they all advised me not to travel at this time because there's no guarantees to get back. The speech I was to give today was about Islamophobia, which ironically enough is the very reason why I'm not with you today in Istanbul. We the people are greater than fear. So I will still speak today about media and Islamophobia, and I will speak about the Muslim ban executive order President Trump has signed recently. We have all read or heard many stories about Muslims who have experienced Islamophobia at some point in their life. And as I just said, it's stories. It's only stories for us. We never thought that we would be one of them. And that was me. I never thought that I would experience Islamophobia. Last July, I was traveling from JFK in New York to Frankfurt, Germany. I already boarded, everything seems to be fine. That's when the airport security came in to the plane before it took off and asked me to go out with them to leave the plane. They said it's for security reason. I was really in shock because I already went through the security check and everything seemed fine. At that moment, I remember the white American guy who was sitting at the terminal and waiting for another flight. He was staring at me constantly in a way that made me feel so uncomfortable. The security team took me and all my belongings to do a recheck again. They checked my bags, they inspected me, they did the paperwork that all is clear and they can go back now to my flight if it's still there. When we was about to re-enter the plane, the white American guy stand again and he starts screaming and shouting, "I told you she's dangerous, are you crazy, you can't let her in." At that moment, I realized how Islamophobia is real and no one has immunity against it. Islamophobia is real, it's getting worse and it's getting scary. There have been many hate attacks on Islamic centers, mosques, Islamic schools here in the States, in Canada, and in many European countries. Fox News, for example, they always condemn any attack done by Muslims as a terrorist attack. While if anyone of any other group, let's say white Americans, they will condemn it as just one attack done by a mentally ill person. You would never know their nationality or even religion. Less than 1% of the gun attacks in the United States were done by Muslims, where the majority, 90% of it, were done by Christian American men. The Human Rights Watch have published a study that showed the yearly number of Americans who've been killed by Muslims to be only 2, while Americans who've been killed by other Americans in gun violence were more than 11,000 a year. But if you watch Fox News, you would think the reality is the other way around. Especially when they talk about the infamous ISIS. They make it seem like all Muslims belong to ISIS, while in reality, the number 1 victim of ISIS attacks are Muslims. And the majority of Muslims country, they hate ISIS and they don't believe in it. Most of the terrorist attacks are happening in Muslim countries, not in the West. In fact, the Global Terrorism Database statistics in 2014 says 5 countries, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Syria, accounted for 80% of the deaths from terrorism. Another major factor that increased Islamophobia through the past years is movies and drama series that are produced by Hollywood. Almost in every time a Muslim character is featured by Hollywood, it's gonna be a terrorist or, best case scenario, an ignorant person. So this really spikes Islamophobia. In the movie Taken 2, a retired CIA agent travels with his daughter and wife to Istanbul to spend few days, where there is a gang involved in human trafficking, kidnap his wife and his daughter. I traveled to Istanbul more than 12 times, so I know how beautiful and magical this city is, and I know how great the Turkish people are. But if you watch this movie and you never visit Istanbul, you would think that Istanbul is an ugly, dirty city, and you would think that Turkish people are very unfriendly or even scary. And when we see in the movie hijabi women, they would be very scary, very dangerous, and they wouldn't even help a woman who's running out of her death before she gets raped. Another example is Homeland series. It's one of the most famous drama series in the United States. It tells the story of an American veteran who served in Iraq and converted to Islam there. And once he converted to Islam, he became immediately a terrorist, and he plans to do a terrorist attack in the White House. In the episode before the day he wanted to do the attack, he makes wudu in his dirty garage with suspicious music in the background. At that very same moment, his daughter sees him and gets scared because he was saying Allahu Akbar. She asks him, "Dad, are you praying? Is this Arabic?" And she runs very scared from her dad. 1.72 million Americans have watched this series, which means 1.72 million were exposed to these messages of Islamophobia that makes them very sure all Muslims are terrorists and Islam is a religion of terrorism. These are only two examples out of many, and unfortunately the media is no longer the biggest reason behind Islamophobia. Now it's politics. It's the agenda of the new president. The last few months have showed a significant rise in anti-Muslims activities. Trump actually has played a huge role in spiking and provoking Islamophobia. Unfortunately, the highest records of anti-Muslim crimes came at the end of 2015, according to CARE latest records. 78 mosques were targeted to vandalism. 2016 and 17 weren't better at all. Just in the last 2 weeks, 2 mosques were burned to the ground in Texas. And in the last week, 6 Muslim people were killed in a mosque in Canada. The Muslim ban executive order Trump has signed recently banned people from 7 Muslim majority countries from entering the United States and even revoking their valid visas and some green cards. Trump says that people from these 7 countries are considered to be a national threat on the United States, while in fact stat says that zero Americans were killed by any terrorists from these 7 countries since 1975. It's chaos here. People are being detained in the airports by the dozens. Lawyers have established temporary workrooms in the airports all over the country. And though I'm not from these 7 countries and I'm a green card holder, 3 lawyers have advised me not to travel because we've heard many stories about Muslims from other nationalities who've been banned from entering the United States again. Not only that, they've been interrogated, handcuffed, they have to surrender their phone to the custom and immigration officers. They even are checking their social media. It's a horrendous situation for all of us Muslims in the United States. Students, doctors, caregivers, journalists, they all have been denied entry to the United States. We feel devastated and segregated, and the place we used to call home doesn't feel like it anymore. And these are just the first 2 weeks of Trump presidency. We have no idea what unpleasant surprises the next 4 years hold for us. So what should we do? In the short term, we need to resist Trump's orders. We need to protest, we need to call our congressmen, and we need to donate to all organizations like CARE and ACLU who are fighting for our rights. But in the long term, we need to produce more movies, drama series, YouTube shows and TV shows that show who we really are as Muslims and tell our own narratives. Recently we had a very good experience with one of our production, an American drama series. It's called Inspiration. It talks about the legacy of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, featuring an American guy who lives here facing everyday struggles and challenges, finding the inspiration through the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his legacy. And though it was a modest production, millions of people around the world and in the States have watched it. It's been translated by fans in 16 different languages, and many people around the world have changed their view about Muslims and Islam. And if this proves anything, it proves that people are willing to listen. But first we have to speak up for ourselves. It proves that we can overcome hate only if we fight it with love. In conclusion, I want you to know how sad I am to be missing the opportunity of seeing you all and see beautiful Turkey. I've said it many times and I'm gonna see you again. I love your country and I consider it as my second home. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Teşekkür ederim.